Good morning. This is the Blaine's World podcast that can be found each week on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. You can also listen in on Spotify or Apple Podcasts and get more information about this show and previous shows on our website, which is behind me, www.blainesworld.net. I'm your host, Blaine Greenfield, and I'm here in my Zoom studio in lovely downtown Fairview, North Carolina. Each week we focus on positive news and information about people and organizations in both West North Carolina and throughout the nation. It's my pleasure today to introduce Katie Oates, singer-songwriter. And Katie, you can feel free to wave to all your fans and friends who are watching this.
Hello,
Okay.
everyone.
And that is Katie. With a long history performing in music theater, classical and sacred music, and listening room venues, Katie Oates' open-hearted performances demonstrate a kind of seasoned toughness in her vulnerability. In 2021, she released her interpretations of songs by her mentor, C. Khan.
Sai
And Khan,
Khan.
thank you. And she's also, so we're talking tonight, she's recording another CD and album of original songs with local producer Chris Rosser. And the album, Edge of a Hurricane, is scheduled to release in early 2024. And so the question I always ask, Katie, the first time I meet somebody, is as a child you grew up where?
Let's see. My earliest memories are of growing up on a dirt road outside of Oxford, Mississippi. My dad is a preacher, and I was one of those feral children running around barefoot. And I spent several years there, but we moved when I was 8 to South Carolina, and then it just gets more complicated from there. We don't
And
want to spend the whole podcast on that.
okay, but when you were a child growing up, did you always
Yeah.
know you wanted to be a singer-songwriter?
There is one of my favorite pictures of myself is I'm probably about 15 months old, and I've always been short, so I was not particularly tall, and I'm stretching to the very top of my height so that I can press down the keys on the piano. And I think, yes, and I used to also shake the crib and sing at the top of my lungs a section of a hymn that those church folks out there will know it's from How Great Thou Art. I'm pretty sure there's a phrase that says early in the morning, and it goes up to a high note. So I would sing early in the morning and keep singing that until my parents came to get me. So,
Do you remember your very first performance?
ooh.
Could be in church, could be school, whatever.
Yeah, that's a great question because I actually, I got made fun of and mocked, like when I would sing in church. And so I actually went really underground for a number of years and refused to sing. So I really mostly probably it was camp that I really remember singing. I had a counselor kind of take me under the wings, and I did this theater performance, and then we started singing more. So it was probably at summer camp,
And
really.
how old were you then?
I would have been like 9, something like that.
And that's funny, you mentioned you were mocked. Why were you mocked? Do you remember?
Oh, yeah, because I was singing with my full heart, being open-hearted and singing loudly. And, God, there are adults who are uncomfortable with that. I play some gigs like out in public, like at a farmer's market, and like adults will walk by kind of like it's embarrassing. Like I'm standing there, I don't know, who knows what. But children are always just like, oh, look, but little children. But I think it was just a confusion about and then I learned kind of unfortunately that exposing yourself like that could be dangerous. And yeah.
Well, I ask you because I had kind of a similar experience in the sense that I remember I was a kid and I thought I loved to sing. And I
Hmm.
remember my parents took me like for a singing lesson, or they were going to have a lady teach me how to sing. And I remember well that I was with a woman for about 5 minutes with her piano, and then she came out, and all I know, I never got singing lessons afterward. So God's honest truth, I didn't sing, Katie, for like 50 years. Because,
Oh,
but
Blaine, that I mean, my heart literally hurts from that.
but it
Yeah.
sounds so similar to you. You could
Yes.
have, thank goodness, you could have just packed it in at that point in time and just
Yeah,
given it
and I
up.
kind of did in some ways, but I found safe avenues for it, and then I got strong enough eventually to. But it still gets to me. It's one of there are people who come up to me after concerts and say, oh, I can't sing. It's,
Right.
I hate it when I really hate it when people tell me that because singing is for everyone. I don't care if you are tone deaf and it sounds, whatever. Everyone should sing and sing as loudly as they want because it's just one of the most beautiful ways to express ourselves. It's a beautiful way for us to, come together as human beings, to sing together as groups. Singing is used in protest. I just think singing is one of the most elemental things we do as a human being. And it shouldn't only be professionals up there with beautiful voices, it should be for everybody.
Well, I asked that too in terms of when you're performing or singing, do you mind when people sing along with you?
Oh, goodness, no. I try to, in fact, have more and more, I'm trying to incorporate more sing along opportunities. At first, I was really nervous about that because I thought, oh, people won't sing. But what's surprising is people really do want to try to sing, and people can pick up on the songs quite quickly. So,
If we
no.
can, to give a shout out to somebody you mentioned. So you mentioned that one uh, counselor or whatever when you were 9 years old. Do you remember that person's name?
Oh, gosh. I wish I could.
Oh, and same thing too. I wonder if that person was still around,
I
because
know.
that'd be cool to give recognition to
Oh,
that
wouldn't
person.
it be? Because she was just so special and really did embrace her.
Wow, great story. Fast forward from there, so you got kind of confident again about singing. You were 9 years old. Do you remember your first performance after that? Where other people were there.
Yeah, a more dramatic happened because, again, as I said, I only really performed at camp. So my parents didn't know I sang. I would only sing when they were gone. And I went to boarding school actually, to a high school in Long Island.
Oh,
And
where I grew up on Long Island.
oh wow, Stony Brook.
So further, I was on the South Shore, Lawrence, Freeport
Right,
area.
right.
So you went to boarding school, and what happened?
School. Was miserably homesick. Again, mocked there because I'm a poor preacher's kid. I was wearing hand-me-downs. Anyway, so first year was really rocky. Second year, I auditioned for a choir solo and bombed, 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 bombed. I got so nervous I couldn't get, I croaked. And but I was so homesick that I would practice in the chapel every day and just sing to my heart's content. And the woman who played the piano for the choir came in the back and heard me sing. She's the only one who ever came in. And it's just really weird to me that that happened. But anyway, she heard me sing, made me go back and audition again. And so I auditioned and really had quite a big career at that school. Did a lot of music theater, and the theater director asked me to do a one-woman show my junior year. And an aunt of mine called my parents, and she's like, "Get your butts up here!" And they're like, "She sings, what is this?" So the first time my parents really heard me sing was on stage, to a pretty big audience up there in New York, and
It
they
must
were.
have been pretty exciting. Were you nervous?
That's what's weird is actually once I really got my confidence, I really don't remember being that nervous for those performances. So no.
But especially your parents were coming. I mean, that's really
Yeah,
exciting.
I think nerves still hit me today. It kind of depends on the setting and yeah, but nerves are a part of singing certainly.
Do you remember your first professional gig that you got paid to sing?
That would have been weddings probably. Yeah. I don't think I can put my finger on when exactly that would have been. Did a lot of professional singing after college, up in the Boston area. Some really funny stuff, like where we were all in costume and like did Dickens things, and because I can sing classical music too, so I would sing some arias for churches, and sometimes I was the ringer in a choir, and that kind of stuff.
Well, you also
I
mentioned
really
off
only started the singer songwriter thing about 13 years ago.
because you also mentioned off the air that in addition to that, you did a lot of theater as well. You did musical theater.
Yeah, yeah, I love the musical theater. That's I did a lot of that up in the Boston area. All a lot of the old classics, and it's just fun. I still love it. There's occasionally I write a song and someone says that sounds kind of like music theater. So it's definitely in my blood.
Okay,
I
so
like
love.
that. I love the I know it's not. It went through a very uncool phase, but part of what I love about music theater is that there's a story, and then the song takes it to another whole level. And even and particularly in my house concerts, I really incorporate a lot of storytelling within, before my songs, after my songs. And I really think that comes from my music theater background.
What's interesting you say that because I just had a discussion with a friend the other day, in fact, about the fact that some people, it really bugs me, say they hate musicals,
Yeah.
yeah, and they really mean it, And I said, how can
Yeah.
you hate a musical? And they do, they don't give it a chance, but it's a great way to tell a story, I guess.
Yes.
I just love musicals. So what
I,
got,
I
what,
understand. I mean, that's the thing about music too, is that there are a million different styles of songs, and there are also so many ways to be a professional musician, and you can't just kind of. Uh, anyway, I totally get that and respect that. Why that would be the case. So
I guess an unfortunate thing is the real maybe issue is that they don't hate musicals, they hate bad musicals, I guess. If they saw a
yeah,
good musical, or if they saw
yeah,
you performing in a musical, it'd be a whole different thing.
yeah.
Your first musical you ever in, or one
Hmm.
of them?
It was probably at camp, but those were like kind of. Some of those were musicals we wrote ourselves, and um, the my favorite musical that I was in was Oklahoma, when I
Okay,
did the lead in that. And I actually have a dance background, and there's a segment in there that's a dream sequence,
sure.
and Laurie, well, no, sorry, what? Oh heck, it's been too long. What's the lead characters? I think Laurie is the guy. Anyway, the lead woman dances in this. The lead woman and the lead man dance in
I
this.
know, yeah.
So I got to do the dance as well, and usually they get someone else to do that. So
Beautiful show. I digress real quickly. I take my daughter. That's the one. Poor Joe is dead. Is that the poor
yes,
Joe?
yes, yes.
So I take my daughter to see the show in high school, and they're carrying off Joe off the stage, and they
Yeah.
drop him, and he groans, and it's like they say Oklahoma, one of my favorite shows, but poor Joe was really dead in that one, So, but
Wasn't that before he is now? Yeah.
right, exactly, can you imagine? But great show. So that must have been fun to be the lead in that.
Uh,
What got you to the Asheville area?
the pandemic.
Oh, did it really? Okay, so you knew to the area.
I've
What?
actually, well, in some ways, yeah, and in some ways, no, because I grew up in South Carolina, and my dad's a preacher, so we were always up here in the Montreat area, and so I've been coming up to the Asheville area since there was not much of Asheville here. And then my husband and I moved to Charlotte 20 some odd years ago, and when we would want to get away, we'd always come up to Asheville. So we eventually decided to build what we thought was going to be, a second home after the kids were gone, and then we ended up in the pandemic deciding to move up here. So
Okay, well, glad you're here. And so, in the Asheville area, have you done any performing?
not as much. I've done mostly smaller house concerts, but I'm working my way into some places here. So
Okay, so let me put you on the spot then in terms of you mentioned house concerts, and we can talk about how to get in touch with you for those. But if you were to perform at a house concert, let me ask you then a first song you would sing at a house concert. So give us a mini house concert on this podcast, and I'll let you introduce it.
yeah. So you want me to you know what? Well, what I tend to do actually is sing a cover,
Okay, great.
because but I don't. Do you want me to sing a cover, or do you want me to stick to my original?
I think, well, why don't you sing a cover to start, and then we'll go to some of your original stuff if you want.
Okay. Um, I like to sing a cover because, mostly when people come to my house concerts, they don't know who I am, they don't know any of my songs, and I like to give people a way into kind of um, being able to understand what I do. I also have this long history of interpreting other people's songs, so that's part of what I do too. So this most recent house concert I opened with John Prine's Angel from Montgomery,
Okay.
but I do it my way. I am an old woman named after my mother. My old man is another child that's grown old. Dreams were lightning, thunder was desire. Oh, this old house would have burnt down a long time ago. So make me an angel that flies from Montgomery. Make me a poster of an home rodeo. Just give me one thing that I can hold on to believe in this living is just a hard way to go. There's flies in the kitchen. Yeah, I can hear 'em buzzing. And I ain't done nothing since I woke up today. How the hell can a person go to work in the morning and come home in the evening and have nothing to say? So make me an angel that flies from Montgomery. Make me a poster of an old rodeo. Just give me one thing that I can hold on to believe in this living is just a hard way to go. To believe in this, to believe in this living, to believe in this living, it's just a hard way to go.
Very nice.
Now, John Prine lovers will know that I skipped the second verse, but I kind
Okay,
of
but
shorten that a little bit since it's a cover.
okay, so that's cool. So you've done covers. Do you have, in terms of cover artists, do you have any others that you like singing? Who are some of your favorite artists?
Yeah, Nancy Griffith, um, Mary Chapin Carpenter. Gosh, I'll do oh all kinds of stuff. I mean, I'll throw in like Prince and I think Ed Sheeran does great songs. Jason Isbell has got a great song that I cover. I really, I've I skew a little bit towards the songs that I really grew up loving and that captured me. Like, but I try to throw in some new stuff. Um, yeah,
So talk about your songwritings. When did you start getting into writing your own songs?
yeah, that was about 13 years ago, and it was really came from some frustration of finding opportunities to perform. I mostly had to hire. I play the piano some, but I mostly would hire people to play for me, and or auditions. And I really thought, I really want to take control of this. And I was talking to my friend about it, and he was like, "Well, you need to write your own songs." And apparently, I just like all the blood drained from my face. And he was like, "Oh, that scares you, doesn't it?" And I said, "Yeah, it scares the hell out of me." And he said, "Well, then that's what you should do." And so, I started taking. I took up guitar actually also. So I started learning guitar. Started out learning covers, and then just really put myself through school. I went to conferences. I went to retreats. I talked to every songwriter. I got lessons on the side. In fact, I still work with I work with Sally Barris, who's a wonderful singer-songwriter based in Nashville, Grammy nominated, the whole thing. She's a really good friend. I've known her now for a number of years and have hosted her for house concerts. And so I still work with Sally with songs. I've got an appointment with her on Tuesday, tomorrow. Yeah.
Now, songwriters amaze me just in terms of where you come up with the ideas for songs, and so I'll ask you that. That
Yeah.
is this something, by the way, is this something you do every day, or do you sit down to write a song and then you complete it in one sitting? How do you do that?
The best songwriters do write every day. I do not have that kind of discipline or commitment. And in fact, one reason why I work with Sally is because she'll make me. I know I've got a meeting coming up with her, and I'm like, damn, I've got to get something together so I can have something to sing for her. Um, and so, frankly, the ideas come from, I've heard Roseanne Cash answer this, and she talks about having a big net, that the songs are all out there, they're out there, and what you need is a net to catch them with. And the best songwriters have a really huge net, and they can catch the best songs. And the rest of us are swatting away. And but basically, it's a matter of paying attention and never letting a song idea go. My mentor Sai Khan, just like, if an idea ever comes to you, if you're driving, pull over the car, write it down, sing in, do whatever you have to do, because the universe gives you songs, and you need to listen and be creative, and respect that, and then the prompt and the idea sure can come to you. The work, then you have to do some work, and what you have to do is write a bad song first. Usually, I mean, the better you get, the more you don't make the same mistakes. But first, you have to write a really bad song, and you take it to someone, and they kind of go, nice try, and then they hurt your feelings, and you go home and you pout, and you're just like, because this was what I thought was the best, and this was what I envisioned, and then you think some more, and you realize they're trying to help me, and you learn.
That must be a fun song about writing a bad song,
That's a great idea,
But it
actually.
really sounds, as you're talking about it, I can almost hear you singing it, that, no, but think about that, or you give me credit for it. Intentionally, I sat down to write a love song, and instead it became this mess, or whatever. But wouldn't that be fun? Think about that. Um,
I love it. I'm going to make that my next exercise.
well, I'll give you a check, write it down so you don't forget it.
Yeah.
But anyway, talking about then writing songs, I'll put you on the spot again. Share, if you would, maybe a song you wrote, one of the earlier ones that you finally said to yourself, "Hey, this was a good song," or I want to put this on my first CD. Do you remember the first time you ever had that
Yeah.
realization?
Yeah. Um, yeah, I can
And,
sing.
and you do it, one that you do, for example, in your concerts, because it was one of your earlier songs, but you just love it. It's become a staple. Share it
Mhm.
if you would,
I sure will.
and introduce it to it's the name of it, and the idea behind it.
Yeah, the idea behind it, I did. I just did this at a house concert recently. Um, the idea was that I love the emotion of laughing through tears. I think for me it is one of the examples of human resilience, because we can be in this moment where we feel like life is ending, and we're not going to be able to go on, and so we're crying and we're in despair, and then all of a sudden something happens, and we laugh. And so you can be sitting there with tears on your face, and thinking, going from basically despair to just hilarity. And
So,
it's just,
and so the name of the song is,
so the name of the song is Laughing Through My Tears.
okay.
And it is out there on Spotify. It was pretty popular during the pandemic, in fact, and I think that's because a lot of people were laughing through tears during the pandemic. And the song came about because I had like three good friends whose life just fell utterly apart for a lot of different reasons, and people were taking casseroles and they were doing that, and I wrote a song instead for them. So, well, I'm late for work, the car won't start, the rent's past due, my phone is fried, paid my bills with a bad bank card, now the power's off, I've lost my pride. Only one thing left to do. Go on laughing through my tears. the only place to go. I won't go on laughing. Yes, laughing away my tears. Da, da, da. Well, my old man stumbled in late last night, smelling like beer and sweet perfume. He said he works too hard, his life ain't right. I bring him down, he needs more room. Only one thing left to do. Go on laughing. Away my tears. Da, 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 da. One thing's for certain, there will always be sorrow, but I won't waste time crying, 'cause there ain't always tomorrow. So I'll go on laughing. Oh yeah. Yes, laughing away my tears. Da 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 da.
Great thing if we could all do that, all the time, laughing away my tears. How did it go over when you gave it to your friend?
Oh, it was really beautiful. In fact, she made, and this was back when I was really nervous about performing. I was still, still figuring out how to play the guitar. And she had this big event. She had written a book about her cancer experience. And she wanted to do this really big event in this huge conference room, invite all these cancer survivors and all her doctors, and say thank you to them. And she wanted me to sing the song. And she was like, "Would you do it?" And like the words were like, "No" was forming. I was just like, "Oh my God, no!" But I had made myself, when I went into this, I was like, I can't say no to any opportunity. So I was like, yes, and I'm terrified. But it was beautiful. Oh my gosh, all these cancer survivors and their doctors, and I'm so glad I did it. Yeah.
No, I'm almost in tears listening to this. It's too bad. I would have loved to have had that recorded. I don't know if we did a YouTube video of it, but wow, that would have been
We
powerful.
did. Boy, that was way back. That was probably, God, yeah, 2011 maybe 2012, and all the social media stuff was really just getting going.
Great story. Talk about some things you're currently involved in. I know that
Oh.
upcoming you're going to be doing a fundraiser for a group I'm familiar with, Horse Sense of the Carolinas. What's that fundraiser all about?
Oh yes, I mean, what an amazing group. I've been out to the property, and Shannon showed me all around. They are doing work that we need so much more of, which is helping people who have been experienced trauma, helping people with mental health, and their unique slant on this, or a way in for people, is through the horses. And I've done a good bit of horse riding, and I never owned a horse, so it was always at camp and always somebody else's horses. But horses are really smart. They pick up on all of these cues, all of these that you're sending them, all of your emotions. And so there's a real bargain when you're riding a horse. The horse has to basically agree to keep you on, because if they don't like you and don't trust you, you're coming off. So, I don't fully understand all the techniques they use, but I do know this place out there is beautiful. The horses are amazing. The horses have also come from trauma, and so it's this double thing of rescuing horses and also rescuing people. And so I'm so honored that they're having me for this fundraiser on October 7th. And my understanding is they're going to have a number of people tell their stories. They're going to do a tour. People are going to get to meet the horses. They're going to have a beautiful dinner, and then I'm the after dinner entertainment. When everybody gets to kind of let loose. So yeah,
Now, will that information be posted on your website or Facebook page?
it is on my website.
Okay, if you could share that, the website.
Yes, my website is katieoates.com, which is Katie and Oates are both spelled with E's. So it's KatieOates. Oats, I guess the horses will naturally love it. There's
So,
a joke that the kids always make, but yeah.
so if they go to that website, they can find out information about this fundraiser, but also the other cool stuff you're involved in.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Do you have some of your stuff on YouTube posted or any of your songs?
There are links to a number of videos that I've done that, yeah. And
Cool.
I do have a YouTube page, so you,
And talk, Katie, as if you will, then it's kind of perfect segue to something else you're working on in your spare time, and that's you're working on another CD. It's going to be coming up. Is that correct?
yes.
Talk a little bit about that, if you would.
Yeah, I'm working with Chris Rosser here in Asheville, just a highly respected singer-songwriter himself, but he's also an amazing producer, recording engineer. He kind of does it all. He also plays like about, I don't know, 20 instruments impeccably well. He's an amazing artist and human being, and so I'm working with him on this CD. His longtime collaborator, River Gagarian,
Okay, sure. No River.
is playing drums and percussion. In fact, I'm going in the studio again on Wednesday, and River's going to come in. And we did a lot live out at Sound Temple Studios, and then we're adding, extra things in. So River's coming in to add some more percussion in on Wednesday.
Very exciting. When will that come out?
There is no telling. I'm aiming for, it's weird how long this process takes, but I'm aiming for early spring. We'll get all the tracks recorded, then there's a whole mixing process, then there's mastering, and then there's of course putting the pictures together in CD, and there's finding people to promote it and figuring out how you want to release it, and so that'll probably happen early spring.
And so this will be then all your songs that you've written?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
All
And
new
so
time.
you have to know I'm going to ask you to sing one final song. I'll let
Yes,
you choose it, but
yes,
this is going to be from your upcoming CD, or
yes.
it'll be released sometime next year. And why don't you introduce one of the songs from there?
I'll do uh, a song that's really fun. I have a terrible sense of direction, and when
Join the crowd.
I mean, like when I get on the interstate and the interstate sign says east or west, go east or west, I freeze like a deer in headlights. I just all of a sudden can't remember which way is which, and do I want? Okay? I'm in Asheville. I'm headed to Charlotte. Am I going? Which way am I going? Anyway, it's kind of mortifying, really. So GPS has basically changed my life. It talks to me. But back in the days, in the dark ages before GPS, I was traveling to see my husband on my future husband. He was a boyfriend then, and he was getting real serious, and it was just traumatic almost. Family, I was just, it was a huge family. I stayed with them a couple days. So by the time I left, I was really kind of in a state, and he had written down directions, and he wrote down all the towns. I was going from Middle Tennessee to Atlanta. That's where my parents lived at the time, and I had never made that drive. So he wrote down detailed directions, and I just didn't pay attention. He accidentally wrote West 64, and anybody who knows Tennessee knows 64 goes across the whole length of Tennessee. And what I was supposed to go was go East 64 to Chattanooga, then drop down to Atlanta. And I threw in a Garrison Keillor CD and was listening to him. Did not come to my senses until I saw the sign for Memphis. And that and the sun was kind of in my eyes, and so so I called home, and my grandfather, who's was old country boy from West Tennessee, in fact, answered the phone and I said, Granddaddy, I don't know what to do. I've driven 3 hours in the wrong direction and I'm now so far from Atlanta and I don't know what to do. And he said, well, sweetheart, just get in that car, turn it around and come on home. And so that's what I did. I always wanted to write a song about it, and somehow just a clueless person driving like telling songs. So I made it a breakup song and then get back together, and that made it more fun. But yeah, now you know the real story. Said goodbye to my baby and walked right out the door. Traveled 3 hours east to Chattanooga on 64. But when that sunset hit my eyes, well, that sign from Memphis was a big surprise. Sometimes the wrong place is where you find yourself some grace. Well, nothing else to do, so I turned myself around. Headed 3 hours, burned another 3 hours, traveling the same ground. Then I was back at baby's door. It'd been a full day's drive to where I was before. Sometimes the wrong place is where you find yourself some grace. Well, I ain't saying I was wrong, I ain't saying my baby was right. 'Cause it can take a little darkness before you see the light. When baby saw me standing there, said the sight of my face chased away despair. Sometimes the wrong place is where you find yourself some grace. Well, when your head's in a whirl and you need to find higher ground, you gotta get a little lost before you can be found. That makeup kiss was an answer to prayer. Oh, it took another full day before we came up for air. Sometimes the wrong place is where you find yourself some grace. Sometimes the wrong place is the right place. Sometimes the wrong place is the right place. Sometimes the wrong place is where you find yourself some grace. Sometimes the wrong place is where you find yourself some grace. Oh yeah.
6 hours later, you found me. Were you really like 3 hours and 3 hours back?
Oh, and then another, 3 hours
Right.
to get to Atlanta because there was no way. I remember it was dark when I came back through my husband's hometown, and I was like, "There is no way I'm going back to this house." And not only all the stress of being with his family again, but to admit that I'd spent all day driving in the wrong direction. I was just like, "This is not." I think it was years, in fact, before I really told them all what happened.
Well, and what's so cool about it, that song, I just love it, is that everybody can, not everybody, but I certainly can relate to it. My wife can as well, because how many times have I done that? Oh,
Maybe not for as long. And people really are like, I mean, I can understand a few. I mean, it's like, because I should have been heading up into the mountains. I should have
right.
been noticing that it was getting flat. But again, I was in a real emotional state. I was totally engrossed in that is, and that's something about being maybe a singer, an introvert. I don't know, something I can really just go in a zone, and I'll lose myself for like 8 hours. I'll forget to eat.
Well, did they have GPS then, or you had a GPS?
Oh gosh, no.
Oh,
I had to pull over the side of the road,
oh,
find a gas station, find a quarter, call home. Oh gosh.
great.
People don't know. Even I've now taken it for granted, I put GPS in all the time. So, yeah.
Anyway, to recap, let's talk about a couple of things. So, if folks want to follow you, best
Yeah.
bet is to go to your website.
Best place is my website. I do have some social media stuff, but I haven't been as on that. You have to figure out what you're going to spend all your time doing, and bless the people who can find time to eat and feed the social machine, but I'm not as good about feeding that machine. But so really, I keep my website updated with my gigs and put links to videos there, and so that's the best place to what's best place to find me as well as contact me. There's a little form where you can contact me. I have an email list, so I send out newsletters occasionally, and you can join my email list if you want, a prompt instead of having to check the website.
And talk about one last thing you mentioned, which is very exciting for a lot of not only singer-songwriters, but also audiences that you also do. You mentioned house concerts. And what exactly is that?
Yeah, those are really lovely because they're so laid back. And anyone can do it. If you have access to a living room, it doesn't even have to be your own living room. And they can be really small. 15, 20 people. They can, often be bigger, 30 to 50, but it just depends on your space. And you invite your friends, essentially. People often, there's so many musicians out there. You couldn't possibly keep track with all the, in fact, incredible musicians who are out there. So mostly anybody who does the house concert circuit, they're relying on you bringing your friends, whether or not they come because of your personal connections, not necessarily because of who the songwriter is. And then it's your job once they're there to really entertain the heck out of them. And it's very intimate. I mean, there's no because people are right there, right in front of you. So it's one of the most intimate kinds of performances you can do, and I love that about it.
It's also one of the great things, if anybody's listening or watching, to support local music. You want to support a singer-songwriter,
Yeah.
contact a singer-songwriter to ask them to do a house concert. I assume most people have asked, they'll be glad to do it.
Even some of the really big name folks will do house concerts. They will often need to have a minimum amount that you can guarantee to pay them, but yeah, a lot of people love to do house concerts.
Anyway, good thing for people to think about. I'd like to thank you for being my guest, Katie Oates, on this edition of the BLAINESWORLD podcast. I'd also like to thank my producer, Cappy Tassetti, and hopefully we'll bump into each other sometime next near future.
Yeah, thank
Katie,
you so much to both Cappy and to you, Blaine, for
okay,
having.
thanks a lot. And I'm going to sign off. Just stay with me afterward.
Okay.